We are back on Get Up. This game is called Sound Off. I want you to hear this. It was part of a longer interview that Troy Aikman gave last week, talking about a lot of things regarding the current state of the Cowboys. What you're going to hear here was some particularly strong criticism of the Cowboys wide receivers, and then that was brought up to Mike McCarthy, who responded. We'll hear them both.
I think they run terrible routes, and I've thought that beyond this year. I think CeeDee's got to improve in his route running. And as a quarterback, if you're not certain where guys are going to be consistently, it's hard to play the position. That's what I see. I see guys lazy coming off the line of scrimmage, and I'm not speaking for Dak. Dak may say, hey, I think everything's amazing, but as a former quarterback watching it, it's got to get a lot better.
They don't carry any weight with me because, I watch all the tape. I get to go to the meetings. I'm at practice. I'm part of the games. So I have a clear understanding of what and where. And in Troy's statement in particular, I don't agree with the word selection, but there is definitely need for improvement in every position. Not just one position that he commented on.
So that's the right answer for Mike McCarthy.
Right, for sure.
What's he going to say? Oh, Troy's absolutely right. Our routes are awful.
Glad somebody finally said it.
I can't even watch it. But we'll bring this up when we have Hawk in here tomorrow. I wanted one of our receivers, he or Harry Douglas or both, to really look at the tape, so we'll get more deeply into it. But the general idea that the Cowboys don't look right on offense, I think, is reasonable. I mean, Troy sees it. He's the right person to say it. But I think to some degree we all see it, right?
100%. I mean, you're talking about an offense that is struggling. We talk about their defense all the time, but their offense isn't good. And we had, they pay CeeDee Lamb, they pay Dak Prescott. You think they're going to have, and they've been one of the top offenses in the league the past 3 or 4 years. So you had expectation. There may be a drop-off, but not to this degree. And they struggle in all phases of the game. I will say this about quarterback play because I played with Peyton Manning for 13 years and Aaron Rodgers for a year. What Troy is saying, I'm not trying to speak on CeeDee or any of the receivers, but what Troy is saying about the placement of receivers is vital. And it's not just are they in the right spot, it's are they in the right spot at the right time. Because a quarterback has to go through everything. The drops, the set, where his final foot hits, is he ready to throw? So all of those things are enormous. And to the degree that Peyton Manning would go run routes for the receivers to show them exactly what he was trying to get done. And I think that is what Troy is kind of getting to.
Coming off the ball hard is one of the things that he brought up, and that's important also because you have tenths of a second to get rid of the ball. Every little bit counts, and your route is run based on, from a defensive back's perspective, is we start by covering the go first. If you come off the ball lazy, I'm sitting down. Yep. I'm not respecting the go. It gives the pass rush, less time to get, or gives them more time to get there because you're not yet in your route. So if these are things that Troy is seeing, that can trickle down to impact the rest of the offense, especially when you don't have an all-pro offensive line or a great rushing attack. To the point where people say this team doesn't have an offensive identity, by that they mean they don't know what they do well. Like, they used to be a team that Dak would eat you alive in the middle of the field in the seams, and then everything would branch out from that. Prior to that, they were a run-first team. Everything would branch out from that. Right now, you look at this team, and you're like, I don't know what they do well. Sometimes they get lucky, sometimes they don't.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I mean, the last game they won, this one in Pittsburgh, they needed a 4th down conversion at the very end, right? Or else they lose that game and they're sitting there at 2-4. I think, look, they have some young guys on offense, right? 2 starters on the offensive line that are rookies. Tolbert is still kind of coming, right? Like, that establishment-wise, they have CeeDee Lamb, they have Dak Prescott, they have Jake Ferguson, the tight end. Those guys have to be elite right now because everything else is they're figuring out what else they have. There is no run game at all, and who is with Brandon Cooks sidelined? Like, who are the other receivers?
It felt like Troy was speaking specifically to CeeDee Lamb.
Yes,
I agree with that.
And I think that's right? Like, you have to be the guy. Like, you're getting paid to be the guy, right? And everybody else is still sort of in progress.
So sometimes, and I don't always love this, but I think it is worth pointing out that sometimes, particularly early in a season, people will say that point differential is a better way of judging how good a team is than one-loss record, right? You win some games because the ball bounces your way there. And the Cowboys are 3-3, which would suggest, okay, they're doing okay. But their point differential is minus 52.
Well,
I mean, you know,
when they lose hard.
That's my point. They're non-competitive in some of these games against better teams. Non-competitive. And that, I think there is an element of what Troy is saying. Again, I defer to him 1,000% because he's one of the greatest players ever, and I just watch. But you can see it.
Yeah.
Like you can see they don't seem to be playing with that same kind of crispness that the really good teams do.
I think you said this even at the beginning of the season. They got older and more expensive as an offense, and
worse and more expensive.
And the problem is that you're depending on two guys at positions that without a run game can't be nearly as effective as they have been in the past.